Hello and welcome to another installment of Dungeon Guides for 12.1 Season 2 of Midnight. Today we'll be looking at King's Rest. And as always, we will be explaining what the trash mobs do, what the bosses do, and things to watch out for as a healer. Sometimes I will also explain like some things for tanks and things like that, but yeah. Anyway, starting out the dungeon, we have the animated constructs, which are these big guys on the right side, and we have the minions of Zool. And the main way that you tend to deal with the minions of Zool is basically just CC them after they fixate on people. And just simply kite them out for 10 seconds if you do not have a dispel. If you have something like a Shadow Priest, you can cast Mass Dispel, you can do single dispels as well. But generally the easiest way to deal with them tends to be to just simply let their fixation expire and they just automatically die. What the animated guardians do is like two things. There is the frontal, the suppression cast, suppression slam, which is just simply a frontal, just dodge it. And when they are below 50% health, they enrage themselves and get 100% haste or something ridiculous like that. And the reason why that is bad is because this little icon on their buff frame is basically every time they melee the tank, the entire group takes 60 to 70k damage. And the reason why it's bad below 50% is because they start meleeing like crazy. So you start taking like a very heavy set of damage events combined with like other things. In this case, we only play 2 of them these days, so that's not as bad though. We used to play four of them, and it was really, really bad. Now moving on to the next set of ads here, we have the Shadowborn Champion and the Umbral Warriors. The Warriors just do tank damage. The Shadowborn Champion does two things. He does this Shadow Whirlwind cast, which spawns swirlies and does heavy damage at the end of the cast. So you need to make sure you're dodging the swirlies, of course, but also if you're getting overlapped by anything in particular, whether that's the animated constructs, which are enraged below 50% HP, or if you're getting like bolted or anything like that, because the next pool has a Risen Hexer, this one, which bolts people randomly, so you can get meleeed by the animated guardians, like passive rod damage on the tank. You can get the whirlwind, and you can get bolted and just simply die if you don't press the defensive. So make sure you're, wary of your own health bar and other people's health bars as well. As a healer, of course, our number one priority is make sure everyone is full HP every single time, no matter what's happening, before the Umbral Whirlwind happens. Other than that, the big champion enrages himself and starts wailing in the tank for 100% increased damage. If you're playing like a druid or something nice like that can suit it, you suit it off immediately, so it doesn't annihilate the tank for no reason. And that's pretty much the entirety of like those particular mechanics. Other than that, there's the Hexer casts a Hex Volley, which is just a big AoE hit on everybody that leaves a curse that is also a dot on the entire party. That is just simply a kick, and yeah, that's DPS responsibility. From your perspective, if you see it's gonna cast, just make sure you press an external cooldown of some kind if you can. Moving on to the first boss. The first boss does the same things that it used to do back in BFA. Mostly, it is Spit Gold, which is just 2 people receive a heavy dot and a circle around themselves, but the circle doesn't do damage to people inside of it, so you can actually stack them. But essentially, 2 people receive like a nasty dot that spawns adds later on. So it's always going to be Spit Gold into Serpentine Gust. And what this does is this is a channeled ability rot damage, like pulsating damage. For 5 seconds, you're going to be pulsing very heavy damage. This is where you send your cooldowns at any given point. It's always on the Serpentine Gust. So it's Spit, Gust, Spit, and then he will do the final ability that's relevant, which is called Lurker's Call. And this is what revives these puddles, which is why it's important to position them in the same area, and then they become blobs, which are active and run towards the boss. If those blobs reach the boss at any point before dying, he absorbs one of them, or however many there are. He gains a massive shield and increases his own damage by 20 to 25% per stack. So your number one priority is CC these ads, kill these ads, do not let them reach the boss. If they reach the boss, well, first of all, you're going to waste a lot of time because he gets a massive shield, but second of all, the Serpentine Gust rot damage becomes insanely heavy because it's buffed by 20% or so damage, right? 20 to 25%. The Spit Gold also will become dangerous. Just, yeah, in general, just bait spawn the Spit Gold ads as best as you can. Always prepare like some sort of like healing for the Serpentine Gust. And if you have a CC, whenever the Looker's Call happens, just help CC the ads so they don't reach the boss. And that is the entirety of what the boss does. We can move on to the next one. Next pools. Here we have the exact same gauntlet as you used to have back in BFA. Although there's been some changes since then. So we're starting off with the duo. There are generally two mechanics here. You have the soul bolts, which are just simply kicks from the queen, and the king does two abilities. He does a fixation jump on one person, which is physical. You will see like a big circle on somebody very soon here. This one, erupting slam. It's on the tank in this case, which is even better. It just simply slams the target then around him. It doesn't leave a puddle or anything. And then he also does Blade Storm, which, as you can tell by the name, it's a fixation, and he's just going to start spinning and Blade Storming for very, very, very heavy damage. In this case, the mage invised it, which stops the fixation but doesn't stop the Blade Storm. Do be extremely careful if your team has a lot of melee and somebody shadow melds it or invises it off and doesn't say anything about it, because you will die, because it will continue spinning in melee. Because that's exactly what happened here. It went in the mage and he pressed invisibility, but it doesn't actually cancel. He just canceled fixation and it started like spinning exclusively in melee, which is a problem because we have a DPS DK. Luckily he's unholy, so it wasn't too bad. Moving on to the next pool, we have Guard Captain, Seneschal, and the other king. Essentially what they do is like the Guard Captain does a shield cast on the other two ads and gives them 30% damage taken reduction as like a magical buff. You can dispel this or spell steal it. You should do that. Seneschal still does a heal just like he did back in BFA. It just heals the other guys, just kick it. And the king still does the exact same abilities. It does forked lightning, which is just chain lightning, pretty much just bouncing damage. Just don't be too stacked, And then it does the overload, which is just a pulsating damage. Just don't stand inside of this field. And that's the entirety of the pool. It's shield that you dispel, kick that needs to be stopped like the heal, and just random lightning damage. Moving on to the next pool. It is the Huntress with her little skeleton dude. The raptor does the same thing as any other raptor does in modern dungeons. It just jumps on the target and just starts channeling a frontal. And then when she jumps, she casts like a slow / rot damage poison on one person. Just dispel that immediately because it hurts. Other than that, you just have to heal people from like the minor shots that the boss does. She doesn't really do that much more. Just dispel the poison, don't stay in front of the raptor, and just heal people from the random shots in case they're not full HP for any particular reason. If you have a suit, she doesn't rage around 35% as you see. You can just suit it off of her or her pet. It doesn't really matter. Now moving on to the scariest pack of the gauntlet. It is the assassin pack. And essentially what these guys do is the Bloodsworn assassins jump on somebody in the party. All four of them will jump on the person and give them a nasty bleed. You need to be very, very careful of who has these bleeds. So we're going to get some bleeds now. One is on the tank, two is on the tank. We're very lucky. One is on me, one is on the priest. So we got very lucky that 2 out of 4 are on the tank. The other thing that he does is he does a tank buster, which is also a bleed. And now comes the most important ability as to why this bleed is scary. Because the next ability of the king, the mini-boss, is to siphon back this blood. He drains blood on targets with the bleed and does massive damage to those people. And boom. You see the health bars? That's why. So bleed dips you down. And he does massive damage when he blood drains. He only does damage to people with bleeds. So as soon as you have a person with a bleed, dwarf it, bop it, anything like this. If it's the tank, I mean, just get ready to spike heal him if he needs it, right? If it's a DPSer, bop them, sack them, give them externals, right? So they don't get one shot or anything like that. Because the higher the key goes, this bleed is going to become worse and worse if they don't nerf it down. The thing you need to be careful is just simply this bleed on whoever has it. Only bleed targets will take damage. Keep that in mind. So it's very, very easy to predict who is going to take the damage. When the small assassins die, only the tank will take damage from the blood drain because he gets the tank buster bleed. Like you see his health. This was through DP and Fade on the priest, right? That's like 20% max HP and 10% DR, and he still dips down to like 35 or 40% HP or something ridiculous. It is very heavy. Moving on to the next pool, we have the Purification Construct, and he does one ability exclusively, which is the slam you just saw him do. It leaves a puddle on the ground that is growing, and it just like does very heavy damage. He also, just like the other constructs, has the buff where like if he melees the tank, he just does some small rot damage to the party. But the main ability is the big slam he does. Just make sure people are full HP and you will never have problems here. Pretty much just keep healing people the entire time. Moving on to the next pool, we have the Embalming Fluids, which do nothing. They just melee the tank until they die. When they die, they just leave puddles. Other than that, you have the Internment Construct, which is like this one. He does generally one ability. It's called Entomb. And the other thing that happens after Entomb is the Whale of Despair, or whatever this is. It's just basically like a pulsating AoE damage that increases over time. And it stops casting this whenever you find the correct tomb. But there's like a little trick to it. The closest tomb to the NPC will always be chosen. So in this case, it's always going to be this one because we're closer to this one. So I'm already running and I'm already clicking instantaneously because I know where it is. So basically, this construct doesn't do anything because we can counter his Entomb instantaneously since we know which one it is always. So this whale of whatever it's called, this pulsating AoE doesn't exist. That's why he has only one mechanic basically. You just immediately click it always and it cancels instantly. You never take damage. Anybody can click it, of course. It doesn't have to be the healer. It's just who else is going to run, right? The healer will, of course. So same thing again. So now the slimes have died and now they just leave puddles like this. Dodge them, otherwise you get like a long, nasty poison, like the tank did, but I dispelled them, so it wasn't a problem. He's entombing again. I'm getting close just in case. And you see it still happens, and we still know which one it is because we're closer to that one with positioning. And same thing for the next one, we repeat the exact same thing. Now, engaging the boss. He has the same abilities more or less as he did in BFA, like the main one. So he has Drain Fluids, which is a single target heavy rot damage to one person. Just keep healing them, of course, and make sure that the person is full health, because if you do not heal them up completely, they get this debuff, which basically reduces their damage done by 50% and their movement speed. You basically need to be like on top of healing at any point in time, always on the person with the Drain Fluid. You can even like delay your healing like a tiny bit to make sure that they're full. Because if it's a DPS in cooldowns and he loses 50% damage during those cooldowns, that is just going to be depressing, right? Other than that, he has the Awakening Slam, which is a new mechanic coming from this season because they reworked the dungeon. And Awakening Slam basically just does a massive hit. So, boom, right? We preemptively trinket it, so the damage is not as heavy as you saw me do. But if I didn't, this would easily be like 70% health or something ridiculous. So he does a massive hit. And then he wakes 2 completely random mummies from the tombs. As you noticed, these mummies also get spawned by the interment constructs that we fought earlier when you pull them. And all these mummies do is they cast a disease cast, which if it goes through, applies a disease on everybody and does like a moderate damage dot. So just don't let it go off, just kick it and that's it. So the entirety of the boss is, as you see, it's Drain Fluids, it's the Burn Corruption, which is, it used to be a baited mechanic, but now it's specifically cast on players. As you can see, you can move with it, you can position it anywhere you like. It used to be specifically baited, they changed it though. There's the Slam that spawns the ads, and now there's going to be Entomb, which is the same mechanic as the Trash Mobs had, except in this case, it is no longer 100% guaranteed. It is completely random, and the person inside the tomb actually needs to click the number 1 on their action bar, which shakes the tomb, and we can find out which is the real one. If you click the wrong one, it will spawn a half-finished mummy, and then you need to start kicking it again. So it's just wait, right? Wait until you hear some banging on the door. In this case, this one is banging, so they're just going to click it because I'm too far away, right? I can solo one side as a healer because I can never get entombed, right? For me, the best way I found to play the boss is like I take one side completely. I usually take right side, and 2 ranged DPS or like 1 melee round ranged, take the left side. That way, like if one of them is cast on, the other one can back him up and click his tomb always. And that's the easiest way that we found to play the boss in that sense. And that's pretty much all he does. He's just gonna drain fluids again. Just make sure we're healing. He shadow melted it, so you can still do that, so you can completely cancel the beam. Then it's one corruption circle, just put it away. Then he does the awakening slam, then he's gonna spawn again 2 random mummies from like left or right. Then you just gotta kick them, etc, etc. That's the entire boss. Nothing really happens besides this. Moving on to the next pools. We have a few type of new creatures. We have the Spectral Shaman, which is basically, he does a totem and he hexes people, I believe. Or the very least, he spawns healing tide totems that need to be killed. Other than that, you have the Phantom Hexers, which just spam bolts. And they also, I do believe they cast Hex. I think they are the ones that cast Hex. So the Hexers need a lot of kicks, and the Shaman just need to be prior killed because they keep spawning healing tide totems. Other than that, you have the Royal Berserker, which just jumps around, like something like, like just jumps to random people in ranged, but also applies bleeds to people, which with his blood slash, whatever it's called. And this is the healing tide totem as well. You can very easily find it because you can see the big pulsation of blue. So in this case, the priest is getting a bleed. I'm killing the totem because I can one-shot them as a healer. So priest gets 1 bleed. I get 2, which is unfortunate. So I can just dwarf mine off a little bit slow. Diki gets a bleed, and priest is also bled as well. It gets a little scary because you have 2 berserkers in this pool. That's essentially why it's scary, right? Like it's like 2 shamans and 2 hexers and 2 berserkers. So essentially it's like shaman spawn totems, hexers are hex and bolt kicks, and berserkers apply bleeds, and they can apply the bleed to the same person. So you need to be very careful with bop and dwarf and all that stuff. You see healing tide, you kill healing tide as well, of course, if you can. In this case, I shouldn't be the one killing that totem there because I fell behind on healing like a little bit because I had to spend my global killing the totem rather than healing myself. Luckily, I had dwarf. And before you say like, oh, but well, why not just let them kill the totems? Because the totems need to be directly targeted. They cannot be cleaved. And for the most part, I can mostly solo them because my Holy Shock just one-shots them. So like, as long as I don't have to do anything too scary, I can always kill the totems myself. If melee DPSers can help me in the tank, they should though. But this is all this pool does. Just a lot of bleeds that you need to pay attention to and totems to kill. Then there's the Ghostly Brute, which is the new type of creature in this pool, and then the Honored Raptor. The Brute just does some tank damage, but also does like a massive circle that you should walk out of, because if you don't, you get sent to the moon. And like, if there was a roof above your head, this slam is not a problem to survive. Like, you can press the defensive and live it, but if there's no roof above your head, you will die to fall damage. That's how high it knocks you up in the air. Just don't get knocked. And what the Honored Raptor do is they just jump behind the target and they start doing like insane damage as a frontal. Just sidestep it, you see it, anything like this. You can see the trail of dust that they cause. Just like the ones in Blinding Veil, they just jump behind the player and then just start doing a frontal. Luckily, unlike those, they do not apply a bleed. It's just a frontal, you just gotta dodge. And that's the entirety of the trash pack. Moving on to the bosses. The boss is pretty much the exact same as it was back in BFA. It is whirling axis, which is like a swirly around itself. If you stand inside of it, you get knocked and you receive a bleed. Don't stand inside of it, just move out. Then it starts spinning, like it spawns 2 axes that are spinning in like a clockwise fashion. Just don't get hit by them. And then the boss also casts a severing axe. In this case, it was on me, which is a bit unlucky because I already got a bleed from the Royal Berserker, so I'm in a bit of trouble. But luckily, I had a personal defensive and I can just heal myself to full. But essentially, pay attention to the severing axe target, so you make sure to spot heal that person. That's the entirety of this phase. Dodge the axes and focus on whoever gets the bleed and just heal them. Moving on to the next boss. In the gauntlet, you have the Kali the Conqueror, which is essentially she or he does 2 abilities. One is a barrel through, which is just essentially just a stack mechanic. You can invis this, you can bop this, you can do a lot of stuff to avoid it. If you must, you just stack and soak it. Other than that, you have the debilitating backhand, which is a tank buster. If the tank doesn't parry it, it makes him take like 150 or 200% physical damage taken. So if this debuff exists, he should kite, because you see what happens to his health. It's essentially just a kite mechanic if you don't have a defensive or anything like this. And again, same story, we just stack on this if we can, or if you have to or not. In this case, the person casts invisibility or shadow melt. In this case, it's a mage. He casts invisibility, and the boss, you can see he immediately stopped the cast. The visual will still remain, but the cast of the boss is not there, which means that the cast will not happen. So pay attention to the boss's nameplate or his cast bar on the target frame, not the actual visual, to make sure that the person invised or skipped it or something, right? Because sometimes people get confused because the visual is still there. So now it's on me. And now we're gonna soak it this time. I considered bubbling it or bopping it, but I want to save it. Because the other important thing that happens on this encounter, which I'm sure you just noticed, is even if you kill a boss from the previous boss on the gauntlet, her abilities will randomly happen, usually, throughout the fight. In this case, she does her distinguishing move, which is the whirling axis. So like she spawns, usually in the middle. She does the circle thing, still do not stand in it, and then she spawns the axes that spin. So same thing will happen with the Conqueror boss we're fighting right now. As soon as we kill him or her, he's going to the boss is going to still cast the charging abilities while fighting the next boss. So you need to be very aware of this when it happens. So you can bop it, so you can meld it and stuff like this. Because sometimes you cannot stack. That's why. And this was a bit of an unfortunate death for me. But the main things that this mini boss does is like he does arc lightning, which is like a heavy cast on people. He does poison nova, which is a kick. And he does cold the elements, which is 3 different type of totems. It's a explosive totem, which is the one that needs to die first, because if that totem goes off, you will die. It's a massive one-shot-esque ability in AoE. Just you see the totem, you kill it immediately. So call the elements, recognize the totem, there it is, explosive totem, instantly switch to it. It must die. It has a mildly big shield, so again, you can see like the charge is going to potentially happen, but in this case, the priest shadow melded it, as you can see. Again, it's a little difficult to see because I didn't have a good camera angle on it, but you could see like the boss was like somewhere there and disappeared because the person shadow melded, right? Because these NPCs do their ability and disappear visually, right? They're still there, you just can't see them. So she despawned because he shadow melded. We still stacked just in case because we weren't sure, but keep that in mind. Then there's the Torrent Totem, which just spawns some swirlies. It also do insane damage. Just if you get hit, you will maybe die even. And then there's also the Thunder Totem, which is like the last one that you don't see on the screen right now. It's behind. And what that one does is it basically just kicks your cast. If you're casting when this finishes, you get kicked on the cast. So it's just, be wary of it if you're a caster or DPS or whatever you are. If you're a healer, same thing. If you're casting like holy lights or something and you're trying to stabilize, you can lock yourself out by accident. And again, we're just going to get the axes. We're going to get the charge from the other boss at some point. So I'm going to be bopping him here and ping him so he can move out and take the charge alone because it's a physical mechanic. And that's the entire fight. You just need to be aware of the previous boss's abilities. Moving on to the last trash pack of the dungeon, the Shadow of Zool. Unlike BFA, I know I'm comparing it a lot, but I might as well mention since some people are like older and have played BFA. Unlike BFA, this guy no longer kills the tank. He just simply bolts completely random people for like mild damage. He still does the big circles on people, these ones. Just move out, of course. And then he does 2 soaks that you need to make sure that you're always getting. If you miss them, you take insane damage. So the entirety of the boss's mechanics are you get a big circle, move away. He spawns the soak on the ground, you soak. And that's the entirety of the mechanics. Nothing else really happens at all. You can see 2 massive circles, they move out, so we're done not hitting us. Those circles also spawn Shadows of Zool. So same thing, you can just CC them or you can dispel them if you have the spells to deal with them. Otherwise, just make sure you're soaking the soaks, and that's it. Now, moving on to the last boss. He does a few abilities. So first off, he starts off just doing nothing for a bit. Then the raptor spawns. And when the raptor spawns, it does a hunting leap, which is a channeled frontal. And it also does like a bleed. Potentially, depending on who it's on. You just dodge it, of course. He still does... He does the leaping smashes. The aerial smash, it's called. On a few people. Just make sure you're not stacked, of course. Just make sure we're dodging. And then he does blade combo, which is a tank buster. And then the other important thing about this phase is for Reban, the raptor. You need to kick Deathly Roar. If you don't, we all get feared and we might die because of it, because we can't heal and stuff. Always have somebody kicking Reban. As a healer, you can't do anything about this, of course. So just pay attention. He also does Gilded Destruction, which is basically like a moderate to high damage AoE initial damage plus just a mild dot after. You can see like 50% of our health, and then it just leaves a dot on us, which it hits for about like 5 to 8% of our health or something like that. It's not too bad. Just make sure to press for the initial if you can. So here we're gonna kill the first raptor, and then the second one will spawn after. So same thing, it's sleeping, it's on the tank, and we just dodge the frontal. They kick the raptor dies, then the leaps are happening from the boss. Make sure we're not stacked with those, and don't stand in their circles either. He does a blade combo, of course, which is the tank buster, and then he will do Gilded Destruction once again, so we need to pay attention to preemptively get ready for some healing. In this case, you can see I did my trinket here for the initial, so we're chilling. Boom. We're very, very chill. And then he spawns the second raptor, the Tezala one. During Tezala, he completely changes his order of abilities, so let's just slow it down now. So, very important combo to be super aware of. Gilded Destruction as a mechanic gives the boss a 12-second buff that frontals every single time it melees the tank, right? Do not stand on the tank, obviously, right? But the other thing that happens is when Tezala, the other raptor, spawns, like this, he still has the buff from Gilded Destruction, and then he spawns the spears that you need to dodge, right? So here, we have to go over here in the safe spot. We need to make sure that the tank is not moving on top of us, right? Because this frontal is still happening, so this is going to be a little sketchy here. In my case, I ran really far away to make sure that I'm not overlapping with anyone. And I did get meleeed because of it, so it's a bit of a small mistake for sure. Because it doesn't one-shot you, but it's just unnecessary damage, right? So just make sure that when I'm standing on the tank, make sure we spread for the smashes here. And now we're going to get an actual clean phase, because this was a bad transition phase, so it doesn't portray exactly the perfect scenario, but this is now going to be the perfect scenario. So it's like Gilded Destruction, big initial damage, gives the boss a buff for a frontal, right? And as soon as Gilded Destruction happens, be ready to run. essentially like you can pre-run like a little bit away from the boss when Gilded Destruction is going to finish, so you can go forward in the safe spot. The previous time this mechanic happened, it wasn't like the correct spears because it was the old spears. How to explain it? Because like when Tazala is active, the pattern of the spears is always like this. It's always like 0 safe spots unless you're forward or behind. So we had like the old spear rotation back then. But essentially that's what happens. So he Gilded Destructions, he gets the buff. We get the nasty spears, and we immediately leg it on one side. We go one side, tank goes the other side. So we do not get frontal by him. Right, and we're dodging the spears. And then now happens the other thing, which is scary, which is the Savage Mole. It's a tank buster. Pay attention to the tank's health. It's a bleed. He can dwarf it if he's dwarf, of course, but he's not. So this makes him take more damage, right? He has the Gilded Destruction, which is a frontal. We have the Savage Mole, which is a tank debuff buster again. And then he does Blade Combo, which is the other buster. So it's 3 tank busters in a row. So we need to pay attention quite a lot to the tank in this last phase. For us as a healer, watch for Gilded Destruction, of course. Make sure people are healthy enough. Run, like in the same direction away from the tank. And then immediately give all of our attention to the tank. Other than that, you just spread for the jumps again. And we're back to Gilded Destruction. So again, like tank is running on the wall side, we run to the inner side. So Gilded Destruction. We're gonna take some moderate damage here because I only have beacon. We do a massive holy light, we run forward, we go left, tank goes right. Gilded Blaster is still active, he gets Savage Mold now. Now we stabilize people's health bars and then we watch the tank as soon as like Savage Mold happens because he is in some danger now potentially. Blade combo. And then you can see the tank's health. I had to lay on hands him here. I think I should have, like, if it wasn't a Blood Decay, I would preemptively Holy Light him there. The reason I don't is because he's parrying so much random damage that he might take 0 damage, right? And I might just waste my global and my mana. And Holy Light is like 12% of my mana, right? So I don't really want to be wasting that much for nothing. But realistically, every time Savage Mole, Gilded Destruction, and Blade combo are happening, you need to pay attention to the tank as soon as you stabilize the party. Unless the tank is just fine, and then we don't care. And that is the entirety of King's Rest. I will see all of you in the next video. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.